It's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, it's my keyboard with the nice big keys, so it makes it easy to see the letters on them and stuff.
Heck yeah, because as we get older, we need those assistive devices, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Caliber Corner, episode number 190. Today, we're going to talk about to travel or not to travel with the firearm. And if you do travel with the firearm, what works for you? How do you do it? So those of you watching on the YouTube side, if you want to put in the chat any tips or suggestions for firearm travel, what you do, let us know. A little disclaimer is that it's going to be different depending on the state that you're in. Some states allow it. Some states you can't. I mean, interstate travel is always kind of tricky. It is a huge headache for those of us that travel with firearms between states to try to do so and not break the law. But before we do that, let's let the panel go ahead and introduce themselves and give a little shout out to those watching on the YouTube side. So, hey, on my left, I got another fellow Nebraskan defense dad. What is going on, brother? How you doing, man?
No, not much, man. Thanks for having me. Just finished up breakfast and figured I'd hop on.
Me too, man. I had a fantastic pure protein bar this morning, so I'm full of soy protein. I feel myself getting weaker by the minute, but
I had a breakfast burrito.
Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Oh man, so what's going on with the channel? You got any good stuff coming up on the channel for people that are kind of curious?
You know, honestly, I haven't done a video in about a month. I need to get off my butt and do it. I'm trying to revamp it and kind of go a little bit different direction with the content, and I got to get started.
That's all right. I mean, you kind of get to a point where you're putting out so much content that eventually you're like, I just need a little break from this. And it's just because you kind of get in this routine and then it starts to take you away from your family or take you away from your friends. And I need to kind of get back into it and manage the time a little bit better. There was a time when I was doing like 3 videos a week on top of Caliber Corner. I mean, I was just like living at the range. And it was good, but then work starts to take over a little bit. You got to pay the bills. You got to keep the lights on. But, hey, man, you got a great channel with great content anyway.
Thanks, man.
No problem. Also joining us, we've got Tony. Tony, he's one of the OGs, one of the godfathers of the gun channel chats. Tony, how's your morning going today?
It's another day in paradise.
There you go.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's a bit cold in Nebraska too. Like highs have been like in the 50s. It was like 54 degrees yesterday, I think. Lows in like the 30s and 40s. So what are we going back in the winter?
Yeah, my furnace kicked back on, which means my ass hurts from the stretch of my wallet.
Oh yeah, that gas bill, man. I'm telling you.
No, I'm all electric.
Oh, that's even worse sometimes. So, man.
Yes, it is.
Well, you grab another blanket, Tony, and you stay warm for this discussion.
I'm in my garage. Heat is no object.
There you go. I was going to say, throw another log on the fire, man. All right. Well, Tony's been with us for a long time, since like episode 1. So we're all getting old together, but Tony always adds to the discussion and is our source of wisdom, I guess you could say.
I was old to start with. There
you go. All right. Also joining us, we got a little Rich White. Rich, what are you doing, man? How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
We're doing good. So what you been up to these days, man? What's going on?
I ain't been up to much of anything, but to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now you got a couple podcasts that you do for people who might be kind of curious or people that are wondering about our channels on YouTube. What do you have to offer on your shows?
Let's see. Saturday nights we do wrestling and whatever else comes to mind when eventually we end up going down a rabbit hole talking something that's not wrestling. I don't know how, but it happens every week almost.
Did we get into an argument about Easter candy one time? Like Easter
that was on the main show. That wasn't on the wrestling show.
The Cadbury egg, we yelled at each other for like an hour whether or not they're any good, Yeah.
and whether the best one was the cream egg or the caramel egg.
Oh no, it was the Reese's peanut butter cup too. Remember Reese's peanut butter cup? Yeah.
Peeps are the best.
Peeps are the best. Yeah.
If you want to make a mess in the microwave.
Yeah, there you go. What the shows that you offer then, what are some of the topics that you guys cover and when are they? In case people are curious. I know you talked about the first one, but yeah.
Yeah, the wrestling one will be tonight at 9:05 Eastern, going with that old TBS old school time that they used to go by because for some reason in Atlanta they were always 5 minutes behind everybody else.
5-minute delay. Superstation TBS, baby.
Yeah. Tonight we're going to tear John Cena a new one because of the crap he pulled earlier in the week. Where he went and apologized to China for saying Taiwan is actually a country. So,
man, I mean, for a country that you're trying to groom, that's definitely not the way to go. So, you know.
Yeah, so we're gonna lay into Cena for that one tonight. So that's going to be something. And then tomorrow night we'll do This Week Unloaded. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And that one, you never know what we're going to talk about either. We don't do the wrestling generally on that show, but that one's generally going to be like politics, firearms, and who knows what else. But so
it's going to be good regardless, man. It doesn't matter. You guys make sure you check it out if you definitely want some good podcasts. Do that. So, all right. Real quick, your defense dad, you had your hand up for a question or something. What's up, man?
Cadbury's cream eggs are the best Easter candy.
Yes, but only if they're the caramel eggs. The caramel eggs are the best ones. Caramel eggs.
Nope. The original ones.
It's kind of, they always kind of freak me out because when I was a little kid, I always thought you were eating like a raw egg, you know. See, here we go. Have another hour discussion on Cadbury eggs, and that's not why people came here. So let's stick to the topic. We got to stay focused. Although I'm the one leading the direction here, it's all on me. Let's give a little
real quick. Going back to last week's wrestling show, this will show you how off topic we can get. We didn't even start with wrestling last week. We were talking for 20 minutes to a half hour about how my wife's fish disappeared out of the aquarium.
Ask the cat. Ask that Savannah cat that you guys want to buy. There you go.
No, the cats can't get one of those cat-proof aquariums. We have no idea where the fish went.
They'll find a way. Where there's a goldfish, there's a way, brother. I'm telling you.
There is the way this thing's made. They could not get in it.
All right.
They would have had to have knocked the thing off the stand to get in it.
Single Shot disappeared. If he comes back, we'll let him have a little introduction. He might have some spotty internet access. So while we're waiting for Single Shot to come back, let's go ahead and introduce everybody on the YouTube side and see who's here. We got Defense Dad out there, MKJO, Gun Loving Grandpa, Jason Stewart, M. Gabriel, Rich White. All those guys are over there and over here. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guys in the house with us today. Snake Doctor 78. Let's see, Jason Stewart. That's pretty much about it. We got the usual suspects and Southpaw RX out there too. So we'll have a lot more people joining in as the show goes on. And just a reminder that today's episode is brought to you by SS Pond, located in Lexington, Nebraska. To get to SS Pond, you just take the exit off Interstate 80, center part of Nebraska. You can't miss it. SS Pond is on the right-hand side. Stop in there, say hello to Stan, and SS Pond will take care of your firearms needs. Vehicle travel with firearms. This is an interesting one because I know we have a few members on our panel that don't really travel much with firearms, or they can't. Again, the main disclaimer is to know, for starters, what your state law says you can and cannot do. How can you travel? How can you not travel? Are you required to have a carry permit if you carry concealed? And so all of our experiences and what we tell you may not be applicable to your state. So you need to keep that in mind. I am always nervous when I do interstate travel with firearms, but the states that I tend to travel through, which is Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, once you go south, you start to run into constitutional carry states and states that have reciprocity, which means they recognize your carry permit. So just kind of run this one around the room. Do you guys do anything special or have to do anything special when you travel with your firearms? Tony, I'm going to start off with you on this one. Anytime you've ever traveled with firearms, do you look up the state laws for the other state? What do you do? How do you, because we've got a lot of people getting ready for summer travel. There's a lot of people going on vacation this year because they couldn't go last year. A lot of people getting out of Dodge here. What do you recommend, Tony? What works for you?
Actually, the only time I've really traveled is when we went to Wanamaker. And yes, I looked up the laws for Missouri and Oklahoma to make sure I was okay, because here in Illinois, they're really, if you're not a permit holder in Illinois, you best not have a loaded gun with you.
Okay.
Out of a case, even.
And did you find it? I mean, it's kind of ironic that there's other states out there that have easier to follow gun laws than your own state, because like in Nebraska, you can travel with a loaded rifle in your vehicle. You just can't travel with a loaded shotgun, within access to you or loaded in your vehicle at all, the shotgun itself. But like you could travel with a loaded handgun, concealed, unconcealed, concealed with a permit, obviously, unfortunately. And so like, there's just all these little technicalities that you run into and you always worry about what's going to happen. And, we've got the FOPA Act, which you can read about, that tells you how to safely travel from one state to the next. But it doesn't mean you're not going to get hassled by law enforcement if you get stopped. And then you got to watch out for local ordinances, which can be ridiculous because they think they can supersede federal law. So I don't know. I mean, it's always kind of a headache. So yeah.
Here in Illinois, if you got a concealed carry permit, you can have a loaded handgun concealed on you or in your vehicle. That in a case or like center console or glove compartment.
Mm-hmm.
But still, no loaded long guns. That's a no.
I think it was the same thing for Michigan too, because Squibb, when he came in and went with me to the range, he was surprised that I had 2 loaded ARs in the back seat, and he's like, "Are these loaded?" I'm like, "Well, absolutely." He's like, "Don't they have to be encased?" I'm like, "Well, what good are they if they're in a case? How am I supposed to use them if they're in a case?" So it was like just like a total kind of opposite reaction to traveling with loaded firearms. So, Rich, what about you, man? When you guys do any travel and stuff, what provisions do you usually make?
Well, if I travel 10 to 15 minutes up the road, we have to stop at the bridge. I have to get out of the car, take off my sidearm, unload it, put the magazine in the glove compartment, then put the gun itself in a locked case in the back, because we're going to be leaving West Virginia at that point and heading into Maryland. If we go to Pennsylvania, I have to leave it locked up in the trunk for a half hour that it takes to get across the state of Maryland.
Yeah. When my wife and I drove down to Orlando, Florida from Lexington, Nebraska, we actually avoided, I don't know if it was South Carolina. We went around, or Georgia. We went around it because they didn't have reciprocity with Nebraska for concealed carry. So I was going to have to unload my gun and like practically disassemble the dang thing just to cross over the state. So we just drove around it because all the other states had reciprocity, where if my handgun was on me, I mean, I had to abide by their state law, but I also had to abide by my state law while traveling in my vehicle. And so it did make it easier for us. But unfortunately, because we were going to go stop by SS Pond, or not SS Pond, we were going to stop by Moss Pond, where Iraqi veteran operated out of. I was going to stop in there, but that was going to require us to go into Georgia. And so we weren't able to, actually made us avoid part of our trip, which is really a hassle. So having, countrywide reciprocity would be amazing. But Defense Dad, what about you? Travel in Nebraska, since you're one of the newest gun owners in our crew, handgun owners and concealed carry permit guys, what about you? What have you done?
Well, so I'm actually getting ready to do my first out-of-state travel with a gun. I mean, I travel within Nebraska, but yeah, you gotta see what the laws are, because even here in Nebraska, until a few weeks ago, it was up to if you got pulled over and if one of the people in the car didn't have a concealed carry permit and you had a rifle and a range bag in the back and in like an SUV or something without a trunk, technically you could have got in trouble for having a concealed firearm without a permit. Luckily, they got overturned, but states have weird stuff. Where I'm going next month, I'm staying at Airbnbs, but their policy, you have to find out if they are, if they allow firearms on the property or not. And I've ran into a couple already that don't, because last thing I wanted to do is get someplace and have the be like Nebraska, where it's got the sticker on the front door that, like, here it carries weight of law if they're a no gun zone, and end up with no place to stay. So you got to do a little more research than you do if you're willing to travel without one.
The big ones, I know if you guys go to Disney World in Orlando, that is a firearm-free zone, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember the rules saying that you have to check your firearm in with some security office or check it in with the police department and then grab it on the way out and go check it back out. And I may or may not have had a concealed firearm at Disney World. So that's really, I know a couple of years ago they had somebody that had their firearm with them and it fell out of their holster when they were on a ride at Disney, and it, really caused a hassle for everybody. It was ridiculous because it shouldn't matter, but it's their sandbox, their rules, right? Yeah,
that's the way it is at most amusement parks. They're going to have that kind of thing. My wife had to check in her pepper spray when we went to Kennywood up in Pittsburgh. So you're not allowed to have any kind of knife or pepper spray, firearm, any of that kind of stuff in amusement parks.
What's Kennywood?
It's a local amusement park outside of Pittsburgh.
Oh, I thought it would have something to do with Kenny Rogers or something.
No,
like Dollywood.
This place is over 100 years old. This is one of the original amusement parks in the United States. They have rides that date to the early 1900s.
I figured it was like in South Park. It's unsafe. Oh my God! You killed Kenny.
It's actually a cool park. If you ever get in up in that area, I recommend going to Kennywood. It's a big park, but the way all the roller coasters go like into ravines and everything. So even though it's a big park, you're not walking around a lot. You know what I mean? All the rides are like around the perimeter or where all the coasters are. Then it's like a courtyard in the middle where you got some of the other smaller rides. And it doesn't take up a lot of space as far as walking, but when you look at the actual on a map how big around the park is massive. But again, it's because they put all the roller coasters on the outside and they go down into ravines and stuff, so it doesn't take up as much room as far as having the walk places is concerned.
Yeah, I'm back. Just got backed into a door here, guys. I had to step out for a few.
So, Single Shot, you want to give us a little introduction real quick? We're
oh yeah, sure.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you. You got a YouTube channel. It's Single Space Shot ! If you guys are looking for it on YouTube.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about you, man. What do you got going on these days?
Oh, besides driving truck and trying to get things done, be back here. Hopefully back to the house here today. I got a lot of stuff on my plate. I want to get a lot of chronographing done on some calibers that I haven't done too much with yet. Sighting in and getting some accuracy and velocity tests done. Those will probably end up being a few videos too, so we'll have some of that for you guys too as well.
Yeah.
So.
With you being a truck driver and the topic is travel with firearms, is it difficult in general? Are there DOT rules about traveling with firearms? What have you seen with your career in trucking? Because I mean, you're somebody who does it for a living. We have truckers that are, that are subscribers that we talk to, that watch our shows and listen to our podcasts. What have you discovered about traveling with firearms over the last couple of years?
Okay, the 390 does not specify anything of the transportation industry not being able to carry a firearm.
Okay.
But there are stipulations. And first and foremost, you have to have the firearm in a case and locked in a separate place out of the reach of the driver.
Mm.
And the same way with the ammunition and the magazines, if it's a semi-auto, in another lockbox. I know that sounds crazy.
Well, that kind of sounds like we were going to look at this, the FOPA rules for travel with firearm. I think they're very similar to that too.
Yeah, and the company you work for, the company you work for has to be good with it. If they say no firearms on the truck, that's it, period. Case closed. But those two stipulations have to be maintained if you're to carry a firearm on a commercial vehicle.
Okay.
So it has to be out of the reach of the driver. 2 separate lock boxes. If you're carrying a semi-auto, revolver is obviously different. That has to go into a box. The weapon has to go into a box. The ammo and the magazines have to go into a box. That's the setup. But everybody always has the same situation. Well, we can't carry. You can carry, but it has to meet those 2 stipulations, and it has to be okayed by your company.
Yeah, that's the other part of it too. Is do they allow it? And I'm surprised more companies aren't allowing it, just because we've seen a lot of trucks get stopped by protesters and drivers' lives be endangered. And I know that's a rare occurrence, but I mean, I'm just surprised that we're not hearing more about more of the trucking industry. And I understand they have insurance for those things to cover the cost of the freight and the truck, but what about the life of the driver,
Well, that's the biggest thing that's always on my mind. I've been out here for 32 years now. And, if somebody is going to hijack one of these trucks, they're not going to leave any witnesses. They will kill the driver.
Yeah.
It's happened in companies that I've worked for before. And we do lose drivers all the time because of this activity being in place. If they just took the truck and the freight and left the driver, that's fine. But they don't. Like I said, they're not going to leave any witnesses, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Also joining us, we got Squib Load. Squib's with us. Squib, how's your morning going today? You doing good? Are you awake? Was it a good party last night, Squib?
Yeah, that says it all.
Okay, then. All right. So, Squib, if you want to chime in with travel with firearms, I know you had stated before that maybe you don't travel with a firearm often, or you don't have a reason to, or you just don't because of the hassle. Or if you do, because I know being in Michigan, you guys have different laws than we do in Nebraska with travel with firearms. Do feel free to chime in and just let us know what works for you, what doesn't work, what you do. Again, a good starting place is FOPA, which is what do you call it? Article 926A, which talks about the travel with your firearms. And basically, I mean, I don't want to misstate this, but the way I understand FOPA, it's a set of rules that anybody can follow that's traveling to safely transport firearms from one destination to the next. And there's stipulations you have to follow and rules you have to follow, but you have to be very careful. And I know for those of you that might travel, say, to work with a firearm, I remember hearing about a gal that got arrested, what was it, for having hollow point ammunition in her handgun. I think she lived in New York, worked in New Jersey, or vice versa. And and she got pulled over and got charged with something for that because the ammunition wasn't approved, although she was approved to carry the handgun. So there's all these little technicalities you run into. So you definitely need to start off by educating yourself when it comes to travel with firearms. Okay, also joining in, we've got Foos. Foos is loose. What are you doing, man? What's going on?
Heading south.
Southbound. All right. Excellent. Travel with firearms, man. What do you do when you travel with firearms? Do you look at the laws and rules? Do you have a little app that tells you what you have for reciprocity and so on? Or what do you do?
No, I just travel.
There you go. All right. Fair enough.
Like if I carry concealed, no one will know it unless I need it. And then I don't care if it's legal or not if I need it. So
you're not worried if you get pulled over. You're not worried about breaking any laws or anything like that, where you could get arrested for.
No, I mean, a lot of times whenever I do travel, especially with firearms, like the older I get, the less speeding even I don't care about it.
Yeah.
So I just right now we're doing right at 70, and there's no reason for us to get pulled over or anything. So I'm not worried about it. And
well, it's kind of funny because Nebraska has a habit of lots and lots of out-of-state people getting pulled over for going left of center or grazing that little white line on the right side of the road. And they make a lot of arrests and a lot of drug busts because of that, because I think they know when they've got a vehicle that's going to be a suspect vehicle. But it's amazing the number of out-of-state people that are pulled over versus in-state people on Interstate 80, which is the main arterial that goes across our state. And I kind of wonder sometimes if it isn't a bit inordinate, maybe it's a bit excessive, but they went left to center, so they had to get pulled over, or they swerved, or they forgot to use a signal. So I got some audio coming through there. All right. Let's go check out. Okay, Foos, I'm going to mute you real quick there. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's check out the YouTube side here real quick and just see what people mention about travel with firearms. We've got Nebraska Gun Freak out there saying riding hot right now down Interstate 80. What else you guys saying here? Wield and Will Arms says lockbox is open pretty dang fast. They do, especially if you get the biometric ones where you just touch it with your finger and it pops open. Kevin June says free men don't ask permission for rights. I know, and I agree totally, but unfortunately there's laws that we have to watch out for, and I don't want to see anybody get, arrested or lose their rights to bear arms because they weren't following the policies or procedures for the state that they're going through and so on.
Well, and just like me, I'm traveling with a kid. So if I get arrested, then I got a kid to figure out what to do with too. So I kind of have to.
Let's see. Nebraska Gun Freaks out there says Travis Shields had 308 and plenty of the rifle calibers last night. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't get to Shields. There's a Shields nearby where I'm at. It's just not the Lincoln Shields. So what else we got out there? Wield and Well Arms says, my wife got upset when I pulled out my knife in Disney World. What'd you pull your knife out in Disney World for? To open up an ice cream bar or something? So that's a problem I have too, is my little pocket knife. When I'm out of the house, when I'm not at work, my pocket knife is on me like 24/7. And I always have to watch out for having that, that knife in my pocket and watching out for whatever people stopping me at the door and whatnot. I've actually had to go back and put it in my vehicle a couple times for events that I've gone to, like outdoor concerts and stuff like that. So it's kind of a pain, but
He had to pull a knife because Chip was getting a little froggy, and he had to put him in his place.
Let's see.
There's been times where I've. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Yep.
There's been times where I've taken pocket knives into places, and I'm like, hey, going through metal detectors, I'm like, I have a metal buckle, so your thing's probably going to go off. Like, oh, okay, just put your hands over it and you'll be fine. So I put my hands over it, but I have my pocket knife in my hand. So if something does go off, it's my belt buckle.
Makes it through. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's one way to do it.
Make you take off your belt.
If place I need to take off my belt, that's a different story. That's usually
the voice of reason. Heads up, the voice of reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Foose's little angel consciousness talking right now. So
Disney World.
yeah. The conscience.
Mm-hmm.
His version of Jiminy Cricket. Is that what we're saying here?
Yeah.
That I'm no fool, no siree stuff that he used to do back in the day, right? Oh man! So one good place to start if you're going to be doing the interstate gun travel is to look up. Depending on what you want to do, you do whatever you choose to do. Obviously, we're all free-willed individuals, but there are apps you can get. There are websites you can look up, like your U.S. Law Shield and your concealed carry insurance places, and apps and so on that will show you. It's going to say specifically, what specific laws do they have about firearms versus what you have to follow. It'll tell you if there's reciprocity with your carry permit or not. Because, I mean, some of the states, like in Nebraska, if you're carrying concealed and you are a Nebraska concealed permit holder, you do have to inform an officer if you get pulled over that you do have your concealed carry firearm. You have to give them your concealed carry permit, your driver's license. And, in some states, you don't have to do that. You're not required to do that. And so there's a question that somebody had out here. M. Gabriel said, how did you also have to abide by your state law while traveling in a vehicle in another state? And that is where you start to run into complications. If you follow the FOPA laws, you should be okay because they tell you specifically how to transport your firearm. Say you're going to a state where you don't have reciprocity with your firearm, you need to be very careful with what the specific laws say. But again, it all depends on, and a lot of people don't necessarily follow it. And if they don't get pulled over, they just don't worry about it.
You have that, like, travel, I can't exactly remember what it is, but travel law. Like, whenever I go out east, of course, Illinois is just east of Missouri, my home state. So anytime I go east, I just always make sure I'm filled before I hit Illinois, and I don't stop in Illinois. And I make sure, like, I do everything by the T, so it gives no reason to pull me over or anything like that. And I just bust through it. Don't stop, because I know that as long as you're traveling, you're good. But if you stop, you got to make sure stuff is squared away per laws.
Yeah, there have been cases.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there have been cases in New York City where people had layovers in JFK or LaGuardia, and they find themselves being arrested even though they were following FOPA to the letter, because New York City does not let you travel through that area with a firearm, even if it's locked up in a case.
Right.
Ozzy Osborne says USCCA has a good app. You don't have to be a member to download the app. Yeah, they've got a nice one that talks about the reciprocity laws, and hopefully that stuff is up to date too, because I know that there's little ordinances and laws that can be fine. It can be fine tuned and tweaked in some of these states with about the specific laws of carry and so on. Yeah. Kevin June says when you live in an oppressive state, go ahead. Go ahead, Foos.
Whenever I travel, if I'm taking it, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? More?
Yep.
Okay. Whenever I travel in my own vehicle, I travel differently than if I'm like flying or something like that, just because I'm not in control of stuff 24/7. So if you're flying, of course, check out all local laws and stuff like that. If you are taking your own vehicle, do what you want.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception about what FOPA is.
Mm-hmm.
Even if a state decides to defy FOPA, states defy federal laws all the time. I'm not saying it's right, but it happens. Okay, if you follow FOPA,
Go ahead. Squib.
Might be breaking. It looks like he froze up there.
And he went on mute.
Let me see if I can unmute him real quick here.
He
dropped. Okay. Yeah, what do you think he was going to say, Foos? That if you follow FOPA federally, you would. There's a pretty good chance you'd win if it went to court.
Yeah. Federally, you're fine, but state, just like with gun laws, federally you could have as many, magazines or however many rounds you want in your magazine, but you go to some of these states, it's more restricted.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Squib was gonna say something along that line where states limits your rights all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a state. I mean, you'll have municipalities that will be in much more restrictive than even what the state is.
Yep.
Then there's some states, like let's say they got a 10-round magazine limit. They might say, well, but if you're a concealed carrier and you're from another state, you simply follow your rules while you're in our state and you're going to be okay. I think they mentioned that for Colorado because I looked up Colorado's laws and they know that a lot of the surrounding states don't have the 10-round magazine or 15-round magazine limit. And so I believe, and don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure it says that if you are concealed carrier out of state, you have to follow your rules while you're in our state, but you're not going to get in trouble because they understand that, and that's Colorado. I mean, New York could be different. California could be different. You may have to have 10-round magazines if you're in that state. So that's the other thing too, is you might be allowed to carry, but the specific things like magazine capacity or maximum size caliber you can carry on you. There are some states that don't allow you to carry anything more than like a .454. If you carry a 500 or a 50, it's technically illegal if you conceal it. So you really have to take the time and do the research before you do the summer travel. That's the main key, is know what you're going to do. The other thing that really drives me nuts about these concealed carry laws, when I look at like Nebraska's laws and FOPA and stuff, they'll say, well, you have to have the gun, locked in a trunk, out of reach, or if you have a truck, or it says or it simply has to be in a lockbox, which is like hard mounted to the vehicle. Try to do that in like a modern hatchback or a pickup. You have to go buy a special lockbox for it, or have to have a lockable glove box, which some vehicles just don't have.
Yeah, you could take like what I had is when there's a $20 lockbox that has a cable
lock. Yeah.
So what it do is it's the box has a lock on it and then it has a hole in it and the cable has eyelets. So what it is, whenever you lock it, I take and put the cable, both ends of the cable in it, and I put it around a leg of a seat. So you unless you unlock it, you can't get away from anything. I've done that before.
Yeah, what I did in my Jeep Cherokee, I had a 2001 Jeep Cherokee Sport. The only place I could run a cable that was hard mounted to the vehicle was the spare tire carrier, which was bolted to the floorboard. And so I ran the cable underneath the steel frame that held the spare tire inside the vehicle because it kept it up against the side window. It had a little plate that the tire sat on. I could run that cable. And that was the only place in my vehicle where I could run something if I wanted to travel with the firearm. Because it said you got to have it. I don't think I had a lockable glove box. Or if I did, not every firearm I had would fit in that glove box because the Jeep Cherokee has a tiny glove box.
Yeah. What I did is I ran it around the base of a seat. Because your seat has adjusts and everything. And I just ran it through that mechanisms, and it was.
But then you run into provisions where they say it has to be out of the reach of the driver. It's like, well, you got a small vehicle. I can reach everything in this vehicle short of what's behind the second row, So it's like, where am I supposed to put this lockbox? If I can't put it underneath my seat, what am I supposed to do? So, or if the glove box is too small to take a full-size handgun, which it was. Now, in my current vehicle, which is a little four-door hatchback car, I currently have the cable lock running through. There's these hooks that are mounted inside the car that your back seat locks into when you put your back seats down. Those hooks are bolted to the body of the car or the frame of the car, and I'm able to get the cable lock through one of those hooks because it has just enough length in it. So I'm able to have that lockbox, secured in the vehicle so that I don't have to worry about it. And that's how I do it with the hatchback, because they don't really take that in consideration. They say, and locked in your trunk. Well, if you don't have a trunk, what are you supposed to do? If you're an SUV owner or pickup truck owner or hatchback owner, you're kind of on your own to figure it out how to make it work for you.
Well, I know in Maryland. Oh, good.
I was just saying, Travis, that's the one I was talking about. They got part of that overturned in Nebraska.
What does it say for Nebraska now? Just that it just simply needs to be in a lockbox. It doesn't necessarily have to be secured.
Yeah,
because I didn't even know this. But
so many people have, quad cab trucks or SUVs.
Yeah.
It's impossible to not have it be a concealed carry. Even if it was in the back before, if you got pulled over, it was up to the officer's discretion if he was going to give you a ticket or not for concealed.
Yeah.
Now they overturned that part of it because they know it's damn near impossible. You don't have to have a trunk to be safe, basically, anymore.
And now that's for Nebraska. What's going to happen when you go travel to another state? I mean, do you have to worry about Colorado saying, "Oh, it's got to be out of the cabin, out of reach of the drivers"? What are you going to do? Strap it to the roof? You know, I mean. So it's been frustrating trying to travel with firearms.
Stick it in the engine bay.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work. It's a Glock. It'll blend in with all the hoses. Well, hey, if I get the F-150 Lightning, the new Ford electric pickup, it's got the frunk in it. It's got the giant trunk in the front now that you can use. The frunk. Yeah. They call it a frunk.
My wife's Escape, I keep the little lockbox thing in the, where the spare tire goes.
Yeah.
That's technically a trunk, right? I mean, it opens up like a trunk.
I never thought about that. Well, that's officer's discretion. Is that considered a trunk? It might have to be a lockable space, but, every vehicle is different. Some vehicles have locking compartments, So that, I wouldn't say buy your vehicle around your firearm travel, but it is much easier to travel with firearms if you have to keep the guns in the trunk. Not that I'm for that, but if you're going to travel certain firearms, it could be a requirement. So it depends on your vehicle, it depends on the state that you're in, depends on where you're going to, and so on. Have you guys tried any other methods of travel with firearms, like any of those magnetic holsters at all, or the holsters that go under the dash? Or you guys ever just screwed a holster into your console or something of your vehicle to keep your firearm secure? Have you guys ever done anything like that before?
My wife would kill me if I did that to her car.
There's one other.
Back when the Ferguson stuff was going on,
I
had to travel to St. Louis for medical appointments for my father. I just had an AK behind the driver's seat, just sitting there.
There were times where I had to run around, and I did have my AKV with me, sitting next to me on the floor, just sitting, sitting up against the console of my vehicle. A couple times I had to go to a few places, and because you want to be ready for the worst, because you don't know what you're going to run into, and your little handgun might not do the job. Yeah.
So in Missouri, it is illegal to carry or to have a loaded rifle in your vehicle during hunting season. But there's no law saying you can't have a loaded rifle in your vehicle outside of hunting season.
Okay. Now that only applies if you're hunting, right? If you're actually engaged in hunting when it comes to the loaded rifle.
No, it's during a hunting season because they don't want to have people stop and take game from their vehicle.
So there's a statewide ban on loaded rifles in Missouri during hunting season, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Same way with Maine.
Oh my God.
Same way with Maine.
Now, what about like an AR pistol or an AKV, which is technically a pistol?
Pistols are different.
Okay.
You're talking about rifles.
Yeah, so your PCC might be a good. Well, no, PCCs are considered rifles,
PCCs
but okay, so an AR, an AK pistol, yeah, might be an option for you.
Yeah.
Now there are lock boxes that are available. I forget who makes them now. That they will actually bolt to the transmission hump in your vehicle if you've got one, and those also could be used in a situation where they could be bolted to the wall on the back of the seat of a pickup, or those things can be attached just about anywhere.
Yeah. So.
And they're biometrics access.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, those, like, I'm in an F-150, and underneath the inside the armrest, they make lock boxes for that. They make lock boxes for underneath the rear seat and stuff like that that house full length firearms in the back seat, not in the armrest.
Yeah, Obnoxious One has a video where he was installing one of those. I believe it was in his Dodge pickup. It just goes right in the center. It just drops into the center console. You put a couple of screws in, and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he's got one for the saddlebags on his motorcycle too.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, you can get very specific boxes that are designed for your vehicle, especially if you have a Silverado, an F-150 or F-Series pickup. They'll have boxes that are designed to go under the seats and bolt in and lock into place. If you have older vehicles, you might not have that option, so it can really be a hassle. So, interesting comment made over here on the YouTube side. Well, first of all, Nebraska Gun Freak says, I'm pulling up to my Ben Stoker class. Have a good weekend, everybody. Nebraska Gun Freak, you have a good time, buddy.
You will learn so much from Ben. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing that.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty excited.
Good.
Now, Nebraska Gun Freak says, I ended up having a layover in California. Flying to New Mexico made me very nervous. Let's talk about airline flight with a firearm, because that's something I have not had an experience with. Has anybody else ever traveled airline with a firearm before?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens and what do you have to know? Yeah.
Layovers are fine as long as you do not get your luggage.
Right. You have to have that secured. And not only, when I was going to the Nationals, there was stipulations with the company that I was flying with. I had to have a high security box. It had to be locked, and I had to take the nylon reinforced tape and roll it around over those, right over the case a couple of times.
Oh my God.
Right over those locks. So that
they would know if there's a seal broken.
Stuff around,
yeah.
And which they do. They it's like the commercial shows, the gorilla throwing the luggage. Yeah, these guys do it. Believe me, I've seen them do it. And, as long as you've got a way of securing the weapon first, unloaded, of course, declared, and you have to take and lock. It's got to be a lockable case, and then you've got to take that nylon reinforced tape and go over those locks all the way around the case, so they don't pop open.
The nylon, so the nylon tape was probably the carrier's thing, but whatever I want to say AFT or the FTA. Basically, what it is, you have to have a lockable box. You have to lock it. You have to be the only one that has the key to them. And then that locked box has to be secured inside your luggage. You have to declare it whenever you check that luggage. Your ammo, your magazines can be full, but your full magazine cannot be in the firearm.
Right. It has to be separate.
Right. Your ammunition, if you carry ammunition, they have to be in a manufactured box. You cannot have it loose. They have to actually, each round has to be secured to where it cannot hit another round, because they're worried about primer detonation, stuff like that. But
so, like in a tray, in a box, in a Pelican case, is that going to be okay? One of those hard cases with foam? Okay.
Yeah, like it could be in an MTM box thrown in there. Your ammo doesn't have to be in a locked box.
Okay.
But your firearm does. And then what they end up doing is the TSA will come through and you have to declare it. They'll grab it, they'll take it, and they'll actually put white tape around your luggage. Yeah. So, like, if you know what that white tape means, whenever you go to get your luggage, it comes out with luggage just like everyone else. So, like, you will know. Actually, no, my bad. You have to go pick it up. You have to go to a certain place and pick it up.
Karate weapons, I always had to go pick them up.
Yeah.
I mean, those weren't anything that's really going to hurt one unless you're actively using it.
Yeah, you have to go pick it up. Sorry, my bad. I forgot about that part.
So certain firearms or weapons you have to declare at the airport and have them checked in and packed for travel and all that too. Okay.
Yeah.
You also have to pay attention to what was mentioned here earlier before, is ammunition type. Some of these carriers might not accept hollow point ammunition or soft point ammo. So you gotta check into all of that stuff.
Usually it's 11 pounds worth of ammunition is the limit, which you think, oh, that's a lot.
No,
but that's only about 9mm. That's only about 200 to 300 rounds. You get into 45, that may only be 100 rounds. It's not that much ammo, especially if you're flying to a class or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people ship, some people will take and declare their gun and stick a couple or 200-300 rounds in that, and then in their other luggage they'll stick other ammunition, because you don't have to declare ammunition, you have to declare the firearm.
Okay. MKJO says, off to the range. Have a great day, everybody. Avoid traveling through Maryland with your firearm. I'm afraid to travel East Coast with a firearm at all. So, Rich White, you said I hate having to cross the border into Maryland. What is it with Maryland that's so restrictive? What's the deal with Maryland?
They're not a gun-friendly state.
Wasn't that one of our original 13 colonies? Yeah. Go figure, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it was the one that was founded by Catholics. Honestly, that's the distinction. They were there.
I didn't know it.
It's the
name.
Oh,
that's the name. Yeah.
Okay, Maryland. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Queen Mary.
My life makes sense now.
Today, I was today's year old. Years old. Years old,
yeah. Maryland, named for Queen Mary. They were founded by Catholics. Everybody else, every other colony was founded by Protestants, except for Maryland.
That explains it right there. So avoid Maryland if at all possible. I'm sorry for those that live in Maryland. Sorry, Kingpin, we're not going to be able to come visit you anytime soon. So,
well, the entire northeast, just skip over and go to Maine.
There you go.
Now, PA is not too bad.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
No, we're not like that in Maine.
So what is it that people have been arrested for when traveling with a firearm? People that checked it in, they did their flight, and then they get to New York and they get arrested. Is it because they got their luggage and they weren't expecting it, or what?
So if you get your luggage in some of these restricted states, you then have to check it back in. You then have to comply with all local laws. So if you need a FOID card or you need to have certain registration paperwork for whatever state you're flying in, you have to abide by the local laws. Even if you're from out of state and don't have that, you are now against the local laws. So if you have a layover for something, do not get your luggage. Make sure it stays there at the airport, retains inside the carrier's system. Don't grab it.
How do you know? I mean, how are you supposed to? I mean, because most of your layovers, you typically don't get your luggage, right? Unless you,
right?
Yeah, it's not an issue, but I mean,
it's an option. Yeah, it is an option if you got a layover to where you can grab your luggage. Some people feel safer doing it that way because they transfer the luggage themselves. The problem is, like Foos was saying, if you're in a city like New York, if you're at LaGuardia or JFK, which both are within New York City's city limits, they don't allow you to have firearms within the city limits. As soon as you grab that bag, you are now in violation of New York City law.
Yep.
And isn't that ridiculous for travelers because you have no choice, especially if you're not unloading there and going into the city, if you're just simply traveling through?
But what if you're in a situation you get there and your flight gets canceled?
I was going to say, if your flight gets canceled and you get handed your Pullman cases and your Pelican cases and you're sitting there.
I mean, not being funny, but that could happen. No. And then you're hosed.
I really wish they would have like a neutral zone, like the airport would be considered a neutral zone for travelers where you don't have, because I mean, people have been arrested for this, but I'm kind of curious if people have actually been prosecuted for it too.
Yes, they have. In New York City, yes, they have.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, and I go ahead, guys.
Yeah, the whole comment of that's ridiculous, that could be said for any firearm law.
Well, we lost Squid. Okay. All right, so let's see what we got over here on the YouTube side. Jason Stewart said, does the high altitude when flying have any effect on ammo?
No.
Because the ammo is basically airtight. We could say it's airtight or not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's airtight. It's air and watertight. Yeah. You're good. You're good. It's not going to matter.
So Wield and Well Arms says in South Africa, in the airports, they have big signs that say guns. They have lockers so your gun will not be left in your car. But they also rent guns and pistols at the airport, and they sell ammo. Well, after watching the video of the armored truck hijacking, yeah, there you go.
So if you're a foreigner going on vacation to South Africa and you don't want to take your firearm with you internationally, which is a whole other kettle of fish right there.
Yeah.
You can actually rent a gun at the airport in South Africa.
Apparently you can. Like, you've got the Cinnabon, you've got the Taco Bell, you've got the Glock store, you've got the.
Now, it would be cool if they had a range.
Yeah, that'd be cool, but that I don't know if they want flying projectiles and airplanes don't usually go well together. But
what does this say about the safety in a country where you can rent firearms in the airport before you leave the airport?
It says to me they want their citizens to be safe, is what it says. So
I agree.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, you got to decide: do you go to the Glock boutique? Do you go to the Smith & Wesson boutique? Do you go to Hertz Rent-A-Gun? Do you go to?
I wonder if
you go to
or whatever.
You go to Thrifty Rent-A-Gun. You got to go rent High Points from the Thrifty rental place. You know.
I wonder if part of that's because so many people would travel or tourist travel and they go over for safari.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, because you got, the animals and stuff. Not necessarily two-legged and four-legged over there.
Yeah. A lot of times when a friend of mine went to Africa, since we're talking about that, for safari hunting, he would make prior arrangements if he could take one of his firearms. If not, then the guide service had to provide that weapon and ammunition for him. So, he's entangled with that 3 or 4 times when he went over there on safari type hunts.
So I found a wonderful article here that I'm going to post over on the YouTube side. If you guys want some interesting reading this afternoon, it's To Africa with Guns, all you need to know about bringing in the firearms for your safari. So there you go. That'll take care of you. Those of you that are doing your safari this summer, you'll have a chance to read about that if you want to this afternoon.
Yep.
It's bookyourhunt.com. So
good to know. Knowledge is power.
And he does say that they rent guns and pistols. So, I mean, if you're going off safari with only a pistol, more power to you. But
So a buddy of mine from down south in Arkansas, he goes to Africa probably every other year for safari, and he only shoots pistols. So he has a 500 line ball that has a 700 grain projectile moving at 1,400 feet per second coming out of a single action Army pistol.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say those 5.77 Howder pistols are pretty rare.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big old things.
Comment over here. So you reloaders, this is something here. What was it? M. Gabriel says, theoretically, the reduced pressure will increase the rate of double base powder separation a la freeze drying. Could you run into an issue with your ammunition if it's stored in the cold compartment of the airplane? The powder.
Don't worry.
No? The light pressure? Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it.
I mean, I think if it was an issue, we'd probably know about it by now because so many people have traveled with firearms and ammo. If they say, all the guns were dud loads when I got there, all the rounds.
So,
yeah.
I know some people that have a separate fridge, and they keep their ammo inside the fridge. I mean, their powder inside the fridge. Running fridge. It's not going to. I know in the belly of a plane, it's a lot colder than in a refrigerator, but it's not going to do anything. It's not getting jostled enough at 30,000 feet to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And padding in the luggage is going to help protect that as well. Hard landing, whatever the case may be. But when I went to the Nationals, all we had to worry about is just the weapons and the magazines. They supplied the ammo, so that was taken care of.
The jostling ammo has in transit in trucks is a lot more jostled than what would be on air.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right down some of these highways or interstates.
Right.
Yep.
It's a lot.
That's going to do a lot. That's going to do a lot more to it. So, yeah.
So I don't worry about that.
So for those of you that go ahead.
So they
I'll be back.
There's this myth that if you tumble live ammo, it'll break down and everything. That's a complete falsehood. Like, it will break down a little bit, but not to where it's dangerous. Like, I know some people that wet tumble live ammunition to get the lube and stuff off and then go ahead and shoot it, and it's perfectly fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I would imagine that it would be, we would know about if there was a problem with high altitude transportation of your ammunition and your ammunition not working when you get there. I mean, it could have an effect on the efficiency of it. It could do something to the powder, but for the most part, I think you'd be okay. I think we'd probably hear about it if it was an issue. So,
I mean, our military takes ammo like that as well. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, if our military servicemen, and if there is an issue with that, and our military does it, it ain't gonna matter.
Mm-hmm. Defense Head, since we're talking about travel with firearms, I just wanted to ask you real quick about the case that you bought. This isn't a promotional thing or anything, but what was this bag that you bought for travel with your Ruger PCC? Is that what you're doing? Is that the idea?
It is from Elite Survival Systems. It's a backpack, but it's designed to hold some sort of takedown. It'll hold an M4 carbine if you want to. It's got it's got a weapon stowage system built into it, multiple compartments. So yeah, it's just designed, and it doesn't look like a tactical backpack. So I thought it was kind of interesting.
So, quick question. Whenever you guys travel, if you would have to travel with like an M4 or an AR-15, would you rather split the upper and bottom, upper and lower, or would you rather have the quick detach barrel system where the barrel comes all through the way?
If you have to do it, I would probably go for that quick detach barrel system, because I've seen them lock in literally a few seconds. Not that you couldn't assemble an upper and a lower in a few seconds, but those quick detach barrels are pretty cool. I mean, they're very convenient. They look like they'd be easy to manipulate. Me, I don't. I just travel with the complete rifle in a rifle case in my vehicle when I go anywhere. But that's just because I can travel in places where I'm allowed to do that. But if I had to, I like the barrel detach or like a takedown style, like the Ruger PCC.
To be honest, I got that. So if I travel, even if someplace within state, and I'm going to have to stay in a hotel or something, it doesn't look like a rifle base. You're not walking through the lobby of a hotel screaming, "Hey, I have a firearm."
Yeah, but even if you break the upper and lower apart, you can stick it into a backpack.
Yeah,
it depends. They can be a little long, because I've noticed with my AR pistol, I try to do it in my like a school bag, like a backpack for like laptops, and it's just a little bit too long. But that was a 10.5-inch upper. If I was running an 8.5 or 7.5, like a 300 blackout, it wouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah, I've tested this, and you do have to break it down, but it easily holds an M4 carbine. And it's just I needed a new backpack anyway, so it just lent itself
double duty.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a whole line of cases that are out there that you can buy. If you look on Amazon, it's amazing the number of tennis bags that are for sale, guitar cases, violin cases that are, people, if you look in the Q&A section on Amazon, it's kind of funny. People ask questions, hey, will a 10.5-inch AR pistol fit in this case? And there's people that respond back, yeah, mine fits fine, or it doesn't fit fine, or it's a little bit too short. It's a little bit too cumbersome for that size of a gun. Yeah,
sorry,
so there's. Go ahead.
Sorry, we're passing an exit in the city's Cooter, and I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's in Kansas. Is that in Kansas?
No, that's in almost Boot Hill, Missouri.
Oh, okay. Because that was one of the characters from Dukes of Hazzard, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
The mechanic.
I mean,
the mechanic.
I'm pretty sure there's more than one Cooter out there.
The most underappreciated character on Dukes of Hazzard, the guy that kept the car running.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the dishwasher in the restaurant, the most underappreciated employee, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So you have a lot of options, but again, you do need to watch and see what your local ordinances and state laws and stuff say about the transportation. But there is a whole line of cases out there. We could have another discussion on that at another time, for just simply transporting the firearms. Here's just simply, what do you have to know if you're going to travel with the firearm? What kind of precautions can you take? What should you know? But then when you actually do it, what are some of the things that you could do? And then it also might determine what you take with you or what future gun purchases you make. You might want to go for like a 8.5 inch, 300 blackout AR pistol, because it's going to give you as much efficiency as possible, but still be easy to transport. That's something to consider too, is what should you take with you? What's practical? But again, if you do a hunting trip, it's a whole different scenario because you might not have that kind of luxury. So then you got to watch out, state laws, traveling with rifles and ammunition and magazines. So it can be a little bit of a headache. You just simply need to do the research. That's the main key from today's episode. That's kind of the takeaway from it. Yeah.
Whenever I do travel with a rifle, it's usually my Polish tonsil, just because it has the side folding stock.
Yeah, that's another
maneuver in a vehicle if needed.
Yeah, there's a lot of great takedown or foldable stock options that are out there now that you can get. Now, if you do that and you want to do this with your AR pistol, what's that?
The only bad thing about that with that tonsil is the muzzle brake it has.
Well, you can change that.
74 muzzle brake. So, yeah, but I mean, in the vehicle, like if I would need to let a round off in the vehicle, I would not be hearing anything for the rest of the time.
No, let's just hope you never have to shoot inside. But if it happens, the one thing I wanted to say is if you get the fold around stock for an AR pistol, be very careful, when you have it assembled, and that if you've got a collapsible stock, like a folding stock, side folding stock for your AR, you get one of those kits that can add an extra inch or two of length to the overall length of the gun. And if you got an AR pistol, you're not supposed to exceed 13.5 inches of reach to the front of the trigger to the back of the stock. So you got to make sure you don't exceed that. And there's people that don't care and they're not going to follow the rules, but I hate to see somebody get busted because they've got an extra inch on their AR pistol that puts it past that length of pull maximum.
Yeah.
Maximum.
Hey, don't put one of those on a shockwave either, because
an extra inch. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't put one of those on a shockwave because that doesn't count as the overall length at that point. So you'd actually be making the shockwave if you put one of those folding stock adapters on your shockwave to where it doesn't meet the minimum length of 26 inches anymore.
Good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So those are just some of the thoughts. Yeah.
Also, like with the AR style, if you have folding stock and you need to use it, you can't really use it because you need that stock extended. Now, if you go with the pistol bolt and have a different upper that can handle the pistol bolt where the recoil springs are in different spot area, you could do that on a pistol. And like if I ever got an AR pistol with this folding stock folding arm brace, I would go ahead and do that. Just so it could be used with that arm brace folded.
Yeah, and I do want to take back what I said. If I said put a foldable stock on your AR pistol, I meant to say put a folding kit with a brace. That's depending on what you're going to run, or even an M4 with the foldable stock, a full size carbine or rifle. You got to watch out for that length of pull, especially with the pistols. But
and the reason we're saying stock because they're stock adapters, folding stock adapters, but you could put a stock or arm brace or whatever you want on that. So the actual part is called a folding stock adapter.
Yeah.
But you put a brace on it and it's legal.
Yeah.
So that's why we've confused in this instance stock versus
brace versus stability fin. Yeah.
Local laws make sure you keep your brace on it. But yeah, if you're going to do that, I would look into getting like the upper that could take the pistol style bolt carrier that has the recoil system in a different spot, so you can operate it with the without having the buffer tube.
Yeah.
Because if you're going compactability in a vehicle, you may need it without being able to extend the buffer tube. And until that's extended, an AR is useless.
That's a good point. Hey, Squib, did you want to chime in with any of this at all? Any ideas, any thoughts traveling with firearms? Because we're about to wrap it up here, and we've had to drop a couple times. I didn't know if you needed anything you wanted to say. Okay, we're good to go. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and call it, guys. I've got a lot of stuff going on today, and so we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. So we've covered a lot of information in just an hour. We talked about some of the rules, laws, regulations, air flight, ground travel, locking the firearms up, different options that are out there. It's pretty much down to you to actually sit down and do the research and find out what's going to work for you. If you guys have any questions about firearms travel, you can email me at thecalibercorner@gmail.com. I can try to answer your questions for you if you have them, or if you want us to go into this topic further or kind of segue off into some aspect of travel with firearms, we can definitely do that. We talked a little bit about the cases and transportation methods, but again, it gets very tricky, and it is a headache when you have to go from one state to the next, especially if the reciprocity is not there or there are specific ordinances you have to follow. I have made phone calls to police departments in the towns that I'm going to stay in just for some clarification on the laws, and they've always been very polite and courteous about responding back to me. It's like, okay, I'm going to Denver. What do I need to know if I'm coming from Nebraska? What am I not allowed to do? What are you guys looking for? What do you bust people for? Okay, well, you can't have this magazine, or you got to watch out for this type of firearm when you're traveling through our state. That isn't always going to be the best information you're going to get, because sometimes it seems like the citizens have better knowledge about firearms laws than police officers.
Not only that, you may want to look into, like, go out to USCCA or something like that and find a firearms lawyer wherever you're at, because a lot of times the police don't know the laws.
Or U.S. Law Shield or whatever group you belong to. Just email the legal office a question if you have it, or call, because sometimes they have a number you can call and you'll get a response back from the attorney for your region, or the representative from that region that can give you an answer that you can work with. But you just got to be careful and try to follow the law to the best of your ability, so that if you do happen to get pulled over, it's not a hassle, it's not a problem, but it is kind of nice. Like I say, when I go from Nebraska down to Texas and back, it's nice to have that. Soon Texas will be constitutional carry. It'll make things even easier for me now. But, having Oklahoma and Kansas being constitutional carry states, it really does make it so much easier. But you still have to know what their laws and rules are, because they could have little nuances or little specific, ordinances that you have to watch out for. Because even if you're going to win in court, we don't want to see you have to go to court and have to fight it. So, all right. So we're going to wrap this one up, guys. It was short but sweet. So thanks for watching Caliber Corner episode number 190. Let's let everybody on the panel go ahead and give us their outros. We'll give a little shout out to people watching on the YouTube side, and we'll go from there. So, Single Shot, anything you want to say before we go, bud?
Well, thanks for the invite. Appreciate it. Sorry I had to jump out there 2 or 3 times. Phone calls.
Hey, man, we're busy. We're all busy people, so that's okay, man. Yeah.
Just keep an eyeball on the channel, like, share, and subscribe, and turn that notification bell on so you get my alerts. And I'm going to be working on a bunch of stuff. It's just been a very busy situation there for me here lately, because we've been quite busy. And this snafu here that we had.
Well, not so good.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Sitting here all night waiting for them to get their ducks in a row. So. Yep. So take care, everybody. God bless. Travel safe. Travel legal. Do your research. America moves by truck.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate having you here every week. It's great to have you stop by. So, all right. And Foos, anything you want to say before we go?
Not really. Just, travel safe and do what you need to do.
Sounds good. All right. Tony, anything you want to say before we go?
Just everybody have a good day.
We will, man. You too. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you very much. All right. And Rich White, anything you want to say before we go? Oh, go ahead, Foos.
No, never mind.
Oh,
I'll catch you after the show.
Okay, no problem, man. All right, Rich, go ahead.
Just be sure to catch the wrestling show tonight if you're into that. That'll be at 9:05 p.m. Eastern on the Unloaded Media channel. Tomorrow night we'll have This Week Unloaded on that same channel. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern-ish. And with the holiday coming up on Monday, don't forget to remember the reason why that holiday exists, and remember the people that have died so that you have the freedom you have now.
Right on, man. Absolutely. All right. And Defense Dad, anything you want to say before we go?
No, good discussion. Thanks for having me. Check out everybody's channels.
Definitely. Right on, man. You got a great channel too. And last but not least, Squib, anything you want to say before we go?
Bye, Alicia.
All righty. See you later, Alicia. And I think we had bye Felicia on the little thumbnail for the vehicle for today's or was on the car, I think, for today's thumbnail for today's episode. So, all right. So let's see who joined us over here on the YouTube side. We had a little Wheeled and Well Armed out there, some Kingpin, some Kevin Jung, Patriot in the Dark. M. Gabriel was watching today. DM Foz says, no, don't go. I just got here. Foz, I'm sorry, man. I'm on vacation. I got stuff going on, buddy. I do apologize, but we'll be back next Saturday for a nice long episode. We'll have a lot of fun. Sketchy Rolls out there too. And Gun Loving Grandpa's in the house. Snake Doctor 78, Jason Stewart, if I mentioned it earlier. Tommy Gunn in the house with us every week joining us from Canada, if I'm not mistaken, of all places. Big Dre 357's in the house. MKJOs was watching this morning. A lot of people out there. Ozzy Osbourne in the house. Bernie B. Sanchez watching too. And Netflitter checking it out. Rich White's out there over here. Nebraska Gun Freak is enjoying his firearms class this morning, so he's going to have a great time. Scott 79's out there also. And we did see a little Kingpin in the house. Patriot in the Dark watching too. And Mike. So we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. This has been Caliber Corner episode number 190, where today's discussion, quick and simple, short and sweet, traveling with firearms. What do you need to know? What does it take? Unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of research on your part. We don't have the answers for everybody, but hopefully we steered you in the right direction. So you guys have fun, be safe, take care. Shout out to SS Pond for their sponsorship of today's episode. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye, Felicia. Bye-bye.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Felicia.